the occasion of making a few presentations to you, and thereafter you've always been a source of advice.
My first day in office, and we had that office boy, a contractual person. He's still with me, Akash, and he came in. He had no idea about the rank structure and anything. And he came and he said कि साहब दो साहब लोग सफेद वर्दी में बाहर खड़े हैं, सीनियर लगते हैं पर मुझे नहीं मालूम.
And then to raise it to the level where we are going and briefing this to the Prime Minister that, sir, we will do 75. So that took a lot of, you needed to have faith.
When we were together in NSCS, so we were pushing for indigenization, if you recollect. And we had made a list of, I think, 2 pages full of what needs to be indigenized in the Ministry of Defence. We made a letter and the NSA sent it to the Honorable Raksha Mantri, and we got a very positive response that he was for it and he marked it down below.
Hello viewers, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Mentors of Chakra Dialogue Foundation, an organization which is dedicated to nation building and building comprehensive national power. I'm Commodore P Golaya. Our guest today needs no introduction. General V G Khandare, who's been the military advisor to the National Security Council Secretariat, who's been the Director General of Defence Intelligence Agency, and who is presently the Principal Advisor to the Ministry of Defence. General Khandare is a mentor for CDF, but I can say this on a personal note that he's been a mentor to me for many years. Welcome to the show, sir. I think even before you joined NSCS, I had the occasion of making a few presentations to you, and thereafter you've always been a source of advice. And I could go to you whenever guidance was needed. In NSCS, though, I never served under you. I was not in the military. I started off in the military wing, but by the time you joined as the military advisor, I had shifted to the technology wing, which had been set up. But I do think we used to interact almost on a daily basis, and you always gave me time and heard me out. So, as I said, you are here as a mentor of CDF, but I have always seen you as a mentor personally.
Thank you, Arun. In fact, nostalgic memories of having interacted as DGDI with you, Satyam, and you were the people pushing for so many things for the nation at that point in time. And I'm actually happy that we could make it happen. Many things which we cannot speak here, but we did some very important things. And then in the NSCS, by the time I came, the reorganization was taking place, and obviously these verticals which were taking shape. And it's actually not as important to be serving under someone, but to be serving with someone. And I think even subsequently, when you went back to the Navy and TDAC got created, and Admiral KB Singh, the kind of role he played in pushing for the future growth of armed forces. I'm not saying only Navy, armed forces. I think you played a wonderful role in that.
Very, very kind of you to say that, sir. But I like what you mentioned about, a lot of things which happened behind the scenes and in all services. So we had a set of questions, prepared, which we were supposed to ask you today. But if you permit, I think our viewers would be very, very interested in knowing, because most people do not know the role which you played in the Navy setting up the NIIO, or for that matter, even the sprint and the Swawalamban which happened. There was a lot of parlays which went on behind the scenes, and you played a very, very important role. So if you permit, can I ask you that? Because that is something which I think our viewers would be interested in knowing, and that is, I plan to write a book about it, sir, and I would request you to write the blurb behind it.
Sure.
But some of the stories will come out then. But if you're okay, can I ask you about those?
Sure, definitely.
And as you mentioned, it was not a single service thing. I also remember, and this is, as the General just mentioned, we are going back into old times and being nostalgic. But I remember one, this is before you joined the NSCS, sir, in one of the, when General Rawat had taken over the Chief of Army Staff much before he became the CDS. In one of the meetings, you had told him that no staff, no agenda, just hear him out for half an hour. And you had told me that, just go and speak your mind. And as you said, we'll not go into the topics. And I remember General Rawat, when we said that Army and Air Force are on board, and the Navy and the Air Force are on board, and he got up and he said, son, the Army is firmly on board.
Yes.
So the, things like this, many things which are not in the public domain. So for example, Sprint, now our viewers would be aware, Sprint is a backronym. It stands for Supporting Pole Vaulting in R&D through NIIO, IDEX, ETDEX. First, we thought of the name Sprint, and then we went into it. But the question which I want to ask you is, because when I approached you for this, one was internally Navy, the discussions which were going on.
Yeah.
Second is you were by then the principal advisor in MOD, and we of course needed the MOD on board. And we approached you, and then the defense secretary, and then there's a meeting between you, the vice chief then, who's Admiral Ghormade, and the defense secretary, and how fast the things moved, and how we could make it happen, and your role in it. So could I ask you to brief the viewers about that, sir?
This part is very interesting, and what you mentioned about your desire to write a book, I think it has to be chronicled properly, and I trust you with that. 22nd March 2022, I took over as the principal advisor, and I was pleasantly surprised. That day, my first day in office, and we had that office boy, a contractual person. He's still with me, Akash, and he came in. He had no idea about the rank structure and anything. And he came and he said कि साहब दो साहब लोग सफ़ेद वर्दी में बाहर खड़े हैं, सीनियर लगते हैं पर मुझे नहीं मालूम. So I said okay. So I got up, I went out, and I saw you and Admiral Ghormade standing outside. And my question to you at that time, if you remember, I said, how did you know that I'm in this office? I myself did not know that there was no board there, there was nothing.
So we were waiting for you to join. It was all a conspiracy.
And I asked you, I asked you and I asked Admiral Ghormade, I said, Satish, how did you know that I'm joining? I didn't know that I'm joining. And he said, sir, hum nazar rakhte hain. And then I said, okay, what brings you here? So both of you obviously explained that this was a journey towards indigenization at a very fast pace. So I said, okay, now I'm leaving one part of it because whoever was the person, but you definitely told me that, sir, we need your help. And we went over it. And you had come with 25 such projects, proposals. And when we were discussing, I said, why 25? Why not 50? That was just, I just blurted it out. And Arun, you told me, you said, sir, give me another day and I'll come up with 50. And you came up with 50 the very next day.
Sir, and then as it happened, when we internally discussed in the Navy, we decided to raise the number to 75 because, this was a Azadi ka
Amrit
Mahotsav, which was there. So everything was the 75th year of independence. What should we do? Yeah. So we said, why should we not aim for 75 innovations in the 75th year of independence?
This 75 went so well with the Defense Secretary, Dr. Ajay Kumar, that he said this 75 is the one which will give it an appeal. And then he went through those 75 and that was, I think, 23rd, 24th, 25th, one of these days that we went and briefed him. And you, me and Admiral Ghormade, we were there. And then the main question happened where Dr. Ajay Kumar said, we'll ask the Raksha Mantri to do it, to inaugurate that. And we had a very quick discussion. We said, why not the Prime Minister? And he said, who'll tell the Prime Minister? I said, I'll walk across to the Chief of Naval Staff and I'll tell him that he has to talk to the Prime Minister. After that meeting, I walked across to the Chief of Naval Staff office on the same floor on the other end. And I asked the Naval Chief, why don't you take a meeting appointment with the Prime Minister? 2 days later, he had an appointment and he went and explained. Honorable Prime Minister was absolutely thrilled. This was March. And in June, at Ambedkar International Center, we had that Swavalamban, which was so well done. And I remember on the stage, the Defense Secretary, Dr. Ajay Kumar, he made a mention. He said, I could not believe it that this can happen within 3 months. And that happened. Those 75 challenges were given out. You people put in so much of hard work about that. I think you were sitting in IIT Delhi and processing those cases burning midnight oil. And in October in Gandhinagar, we had the Def Expo, where you were able to tell us the progress that you had made, and that inspired me to bring in another challenge, and that was for space.
And Dev Space was again 75, sir.
Yes.
I think it was 76.
75. Yeah.
And so the question which I have to, which I want to ask you, sir, is when we first approached you. So at that time, I don't think there was a single successful IDEX case in the sense which had reached the induction state. You know, the program was about 2-3 years old. And though, of course, the very, very enabling amendments to the DAP, which permitted, fast-track procurement happened, I think, just before this IDEX was launched, when we were first on the block to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But when we approached you at that time, when there wasn't a single successful case which had got inducted through this route, though they were at various stages of development. And so you mentioned, Dr. Ajay Kumar mentioned this on stage, that he wasn't really expecting that it would happen. It was very satisfying because some people made a statement that what Navy is trying is not ambitious, it's audacious. And then even Mr. Jaju, who was the ASDP that time, put out a tweet what the Navy has achieved is magical.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, when we approached you, did you really think we were crazy? Or, I mean, because, to push it the way you did, sir, even if the Navy was keen on this, even within the Navy, I can tell you that there were doubts. Because, if you've not even done 5 cases, 5 is the figure which they were near the completion stage when this thing was launched. So if you've done 5 cases in 3 or 4 years, and then suddenly you say we lose 75 cases in the next 1 year, and then to raise it to the level where we are going and briefing this to the Prime Minister that, sir, we will do 75. So that took a lot of, you needed to have faith. So what was your reaction when we proposed something which at that time might have seemed, as you said, not ambitious, but absurd?
See, 2 things I want to highlight here. The first thing is, when we were together in NSCS, so we were pushing for indigenization, if you recollect. And we had made a list of, I think, 2 pages full of what needs to be indigenized in the Ministry of Defense. And most of it was the ammunition which was being imported, and so much of money was being spent, foreign exchange was being paid. And why can't we do it? So I remember in, I think, 2020, we made a letter and the NSA sent it to the Honorable Raksha Mantri, and we got a very positive response that he was for it and he marked it down below. So that was one thing which I thought that here is Honorable Raksha Mantri who will go for it. When you have a kind of a background where you know that he's not one who will laugh at it or do something. So that was one part. And the second part was when we were together again in NSCS, your time to come to me used to be at 5 o'clock.
Sir.
You used to come to me and take about half an hour, 45 minutes and discuss so many things which could be done. So I knew there is something which you are going to push. Because you had those ideas, I remember the chirp spectrum and things of that nature. So you had something in that. And when I looked at Admiral Satish Ghormade, I knew he is a good commander who will trust his team. And I won't say on the camera, but the way he also gave an impetus, the kind of decision making. And one more advantage which I could, because we had discussed this, the entire chain of command, you had cut it down to the bare minimum, and time was of priority. And because of that, in the initial stages itself, I felt, yes, let's try this and it can work. And the way it worked, and thereafter we kept pushing. And you can tell the viewers, instead of 75, how many did you ultimately land up with?
So we signed 108 contracts, sir. But this is not about the sprint. This is about your role in the sprint, sir. So if I can ask, one very quick question, because when Sprint was launched, of course, Admiral Hari Kumar was the Chief of Naval Staff. He was at the helm, but Admiral Ghormade, as the Vice Chief, who's the head of NII, played a pivotal role. But I think the die was cast, so to speak, even before that, when the NIIO itself was set up. This, again, not many people are aware, has some relation to the discussions which happened in NSCS. But Admiral KB Singh, who was the Chief of Naval Staff when NIIO was set up, and whom we are privileged to have as one of the mentors at CDF as well, he is somebody who's very, very pro-innovation. and the discussions which you had with him and how it panned out is something which I think...
See, Admiral KB Singh is another very great personality. We are blessed to have had him as the Chief of Naval Staff.
Absolutely.
And I remember when you had completed your term at NSCS and the NSA asked me, now what? And I said, but here is a man who's absolutely ready to take the Navy on that technology growth or technology discovery.
I didn't know this.
You didn't know this, yes. So I then requested for an appointment with Admiral KB. I walked into his office and we discussed at length what needs to be done. And at no stage did he have any doubt in his mind as to what he was going to do by getting you there and then creating a small cell which was so lean and thin that you would deliver very fast. That was one part. And NIIO, what you again mentioned, how to go ahead and this IDEX issue. So the MOD and NSCS worked very close onto that. And I was fortunate again to be as the military advisor. Number of meetings with Dr. Ajay Kumar, number of meetings with Mr. Rajkumar, who was the Secretary DP, Mr. Jaju, who was initially the JS and then subsequently the AS. I think all of us did whatever we had to do. And you mentioned about Admiral Hari Kumar. Here again, I'll tell you, when I walked from the office of the Defense Secretary to Admiral Hari, and we've been good friends, and I said, look, this is what we've thought of. If it's okay, why don't you take an appointment with the Prime Minister to have his blessings on this? He didn't bat an eyelid and he just said, yes, I will do it. So you have a complete structure there, everyone wanting to do it. So it's the kind of...
Things just came together.
Yes. And I think we were blessed to have thought of it.
And the people also moved, what started in NSCS when you were there, by the time it reached MOD, you were in MOD.
Yeah,
so I think things just fell into place.
Yeah.
To end this, since I mentioned my book, and since you mentioned the amount of work which people have put in and the behind the scenes things which have happened, which people are not aware of, which will be there in the book without naming the people, do you know the book is called The Horse Besides the Cart?
Oh, okay.
The Horse Besides the Cart, because in one of the meetings, without naming it, somebody made a statement that, you pay millions of dollars to the foreign firms. If an Indian firm shows promise, even if it is just a promise, they should not be short of funds. And a statement was made, again, without naming the person, saying that supporting a firm without comprehensive trials would be placing the cart before the horse. So when my turn came to speak, and I was, of course, relatively junior, so I said, I will place the cart before the horse, beside the horse, behind the horse, on top of the horse, but the cart needs to move. So that's why the name, The Horse Besides the Cart, the story of NIIO. That is...
one thing I think we must apprise the viewers is, when this discussion was going on in that office of the Defense Secretary or in his conference hall, and we were discussing about failure, and you mentioned there.
Our organization was set up with a willingness to fail.
Yes. So that was the most important point, and it came as a shock to some, but music to some. So when you start a project where you say, okay, some will clear, some might fail, because this is the first time we are trying for it. I think that is how it succeeded. And again, here, what you mentioned about my moving from NSCS to MOD, I came to meet Dr. Ajay Kumar to say thank you and goodbye, and I was moving to Pune with my family. And he said, Jan Sahab ja rahe hain? I said, yes, sir. He said, thoda rukiye. Then he went to the Raksha Mantri, Honorable Raksha Mantri called me over. I had gone to Pune, I came back, and he asked me a few things, nothing to do with NIIO, nothing to do with Swavlamban, but obviously we had a long chat on other issues, which obviously I can't disclose here. And it was, I think, a Friday, and I asked him, sir, if it's okay, I'll go back to Pune. He said, jayenge? I said, yes, sir. 2 din ruki. So I stayed because I didn't know Parliament hai, kya hai. And on Sunday, Dr. Ajay Kumar gave me a call. He said, come to the office on Monday. So I came. He had another set of questions, nothing to do again with NIIO and other issues. Okay. Then I said, sir, if it's okay, I can go back. He said, no. you're not going back, and this is what you have to do. So whether it's underwater domain awareness, space, cyber,
aware of that, yes.
and actually that kept on increasing. And I'm actually grateful to Dr. Ajay Kumar and to Mr. Armane, now Mr. R.K. Singh. They placed a lot of faith in me, and so whatever we started, one is able to keep taking it ahead. Actually, it's the respective service and ideas who are doing it. We do our little bit based on whatever experience we have and whatever passion we have.
But that little bit, as you call it, sir, is what makes all the difference. And for the viewers, what was mentioned about willingness to fail. So it is the vision of people, and who must be named. People like Admiral K.B. Singh and Admiral Ashok Kumar when NIA was set up, and the structures they put, and the very small, nimble team set up with a willingness to fail, and the support of everybody, including in the ministry, who agreed that we can possibly fail. And the last one, which I'm going to say on this, because it's an endless story which will go on and on, sir.
One thing I must pitch in here to say, sir, Navy did something right. Admiral Ashok was the deputy chief. He didn't go to command of he became the vice chief. Command. Yes. He became the vice chief. He had a long innings of, I think, 4 to 5 years, which gave you that start. When it comes to willingness to fail, because the reason I think we succeeded is because we were willing to fail. Yes, absolutely. And because of your support and your speaking to the Chief of Naval Staff, and then the Honorable PM himself launching it. But when I was briefing him in the first Swawalamban, the last statement which I said, and I said, I still remember this, I said, sir, हम आपको ये विश्वास नहीं दिला सकते कि हम सफल होंगे, लेकिन ये विश्वास दिला सकते हैं कि कोशिश पूरी करेंगे. And I still remember what he said, and he included it in his speech also when he was on stage. He said, आपने सोचा कि आप कोशिश करेंगे, यही बहुत बड़ी बात है. So I think that is the bottom line. If you think big, if you think you will try, you will succeed. Yeah. But I can say this on record, sir. We couldn't even have thought that we will try if it was not for the support of you and lots of other people like you who probably have not been named, but who played a very important role behind the scenes. True. So thank you very much for that, sir. And thank you very much for being in our show. And viewers, if you like this episode, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. The Chakra Dialogues Foundation will continue working for nation building, and we'll keep having many more such interviews with our mentors. We will also have stories with the startups, and we will have a series of episodes on the tech talk, as we call it, where we will demystify or simplify technology. It is always wonderful interacting with everybody. Thank you once again, General Khandare. Thank you. Pleasure having you here, sir. Thank you. Jai Hind to all your viewers.
Jai Hind.